Well, it's a beautiful Friday morning. Just getting to the beach area here, and I'm gonna go see the boat. It's been 3 weeks. Hey, you can see me here a little bit. Hello. And should be interesting to see what they've accomplished in the last 3 weeks. I hear we're very close to planking. Heading a bit inland now. Doug's shop is about a mile off the coast. Beautiful area. Heading up towards Ojai, California. Many of you may have heard of Ojai. Pretty area. Not always the easiest place to find. That's one of the projects he's working on. So here we are, we're, I don't know, 600 weeks into the job. We've spent all the money we have.
600.
We're on week 601.
The boat is turning purple.
So, we're at the end of June. Right, June 29th, is that today?
Yeah.
June 29th. Susanna is almost strong enough to start replanking. Look at that.
I like that line.
Yeah, it looks great. Well, everybody's been very interested in the film, and let's get the crew together. We'll see everybody together. Come on, John and Clinton, Doug.
Okay.
This is the A-team.
Want the boat behind us?
No, I want you guys we'll just get a quick shot of the team. And, you know, we're about, I would say, what, 40% of the way there?
No. 30-ish.
30-ish?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Damn you. Damn you, Shumpert.
I didn't do it.
3%.
Anyway, this is
Alright.
John, this is Clint, and I'm Doug.
All right. Well, Doug, everybody I think knows you. And Clint, what do you think, Clint? How's this? Talk to me. How's this?
I think it's been a learning experience. Learning every day, helping out, making it happen.
This guy know what he's doing?
Yeah.
You sure?
I think it's he's done this before.
What about you, John? What do you think?
I'm just the helper, but yes, I'm enjoying the process. It's a cool thing for me, from Oklahoma to now being on a boat and seeing it, you know, how they build, and it's a lot. Yeah, it's really cool.
What do you think about these guys, Doug? Are you ready to trade them in for a new crew?
You take what you can get. So far, so good. They show up every day and they work hard. So
Nice. All right. Well, I've been gone for 3 weeks, so can you give us just the? I know you just went through the whole thing with me, but.
okay. Well, our concentration the last 3 weeks was the 4-foot area, and we got this out of a single piece of Purple Heart. And we rebolted all the original bronze floors, developed the rabbet here, did some repairs on the existing 4-foot. We added this 1¼ inch Purple Heart plate to strengthen up this scarf area that we put in. And it's bolted with about 9 half-inch bolts, including this bolt, which comes through the scarf here, and the small bolt behind it, so that it's pretty well bolted up. There will be another bronze wing that we took out just to get access. That'll go back in here. These 4 wooden floors weren't bolted previously, so we had to cut the bottoms of these back to work this plate in. So this floor up here, this floor, and this wooden floor now have a half-inch bolt, whereas before they weren't floating, they were just floating. We added this small floor to this bulkhead to get a half-inch bolt in here. So we pulled all this stuff back together. And now what's left to do up here is the frame repairs. Have to cut these frames back to logical endings and screw and bolt them and notch them back into the 4-foot. Then this area will be pretty much done, ready for planking.
Are you pretty pleased with the way this came out?
Very, yeah, it's very strong, and just bolting in these 4 or 5 little floors made a huge difference in the strength. Of course, because they weren't bolted in before.
Yeah, crazy. And then we had a piece of the old thing around here somewhere.
Yeah, we have some of the old stuff. This is from the original stem. There's 2 pieces. As you can see, it was just kind of checking and drying out. And then where the 4-foot repair came in, here, we cut that back in order to work in this scarf.
Okay.
And in some of the pieces, when we first hauled the boat back in February, this is what we noticed, that it was checking and delaminating. So we weren't happy with that, and the nibs were cracking and so forth. So it wasn't going to do anything but leak. And so that's what this was all about. This is essentially a new cap or nosing, and being Purple Heart, it's very, very strong. Also down here, there was a funny shape that we got rid of. It kind of went up like this here.
Yeah, I remember.
So we continued that on down, so it's a nicer shape. And we'll finish the nosing, of course, when the planking's on. We've gone about as far as we can go.
And just for some of the people who don't know, what was the point of replacing all this? Just strengthen the boat?
Well, yeah, the piece that was on here was delaminating, had big checks in it, and it was nibbed, the planking, which is kind of an old-timey way of doing it, but it's not necessary. And the nibs themselves, a lot of the pieces were just glued in, and so they were coming loose.
Hang on a quick second.
So anyway, that's pretty much it in the 4-foot and bow area for now. There's some other small things, but we've been doing a lot of sister frames. Not a lot, but enough. And we did a small one here because you can't see it because, well, I can take the stand out of the way now.
So look, just a quick finish here. So this basically, for the last couple of weeks, this is what you've been working on right here.
Right.
And this is a key element of the boat, correct?
Right, because before we, as you can see, the garbage here, the very next plank goes into the 4-foot into that nib. So,
right here.
So we had to get that done long before we could plank. Also, there's a lot of sister frames we had to do because we've been notching them into the keel as we went.
Like that one right there, right?
Right, this one we did yesterday. As you can see, these all have to be dubbed off. Dubbed off means cut back to this level here.
Okay.
In here, the rabbit was a little too deep, so we had to take this material out of here, and we'll have to shim this area to bring it out to the right dimension. Similar on the other side, but not as bad. Okay, and so some of the sister frames, which we have to dress off the top of this one, we did this a few weeks ago. Again, we notched into the keel. Some of the original frames were beginning to float. I think partly as a function of the not having been fastened into their sockets, so we've refastened a lot of this area. And over here, we did some more frames. Here's another one. And we bolt them fore and aft to the original frame for strength. Small bolts is all you need, not too many.
How come you're painting it all orange at this point instead of waiting until the end?
Seal it up.
Seal it up.
Because here in Ventura we get, damp days and we have sunny days, and there's a lot of climate change that keeps going. Climate change.
That doesn't exist.
That goes on, and then beginning in, say, September, October, you start getting the Santa Ana winds. So hopefully we have a lot of planks on before then. But nonetheless, you got to keep sealing as you go. And we got these in day before yesterday, bolted them in yesterday, and we've been notching them in as we go. Fastening into the sockets with 2.5 number 14s. You have to do a small repair here.
What's going on here? There was this old drain hole or something?
It's an old drain hole which basically cut this in half. So rather than go back, they changed the drain hole to center line here. So rather than go back in with that, when we get this stuff out of the way, we'll cut this up to here, bring this into a notch, and glue this, and then when we go to fasten the planks, we'll use long screws that pass into the floor timber. Nice. So that'll be strong again. And
so how young are we making her today? You saying it's all about making the boat younger?
Right.
We taking her back to the 60s here? 70s maybe?
About 73.
73.
I'm sure we'll find a few more frames as we go. you know, it's inevitable. The large frames, for the most part, all seem to be pretty solid, so I don't think we'll have any issues with them, other than what we have up forward, having to cut them back and notch them into the 4 foot. But for the most part, they seem to be pretty good. And as you know, before we talked about, as we go, we're rebolting here. There was no bolts in these wings. And
The wing was what, just sitting there?
well, in a couple places we added a bolt right at the tip. In this case here, the bolts were out here. They were too long. So we had to remove those and put in shorter bolts. That's all. And there's,
Keep it moving along.
on the starboard side, same thing with this small piece
Come
here.
to this side because it's better light.
Okay. Same thing with this small piece here. We'll cut that back, notch it into the dead wood, and then glue it and so forth. This is our latest frame. We just glued this yesterday.
So at the end of the day, you're getting quite a lot of sister frames here. I mean,
Yeah, there's I think the starboard side has a few more than the port side, just because.
is this I didn't wait unnecessary. I mean, you know, Charles is the racer. Is he gonna? We took out a head, right? So by removing the head.
Yeah, well, the boat will actually float a lot higher in the water when we're done.
Okay.
Because there's nothing heavier than a bilge full of water, right? So, and also the planks have been ground back over the years to where they're only like 7/8 in place, and they should be a full inch and an eighth. So when you add a 1/4 of an inch to the outside of a boat like that, the displacement of the water creates a lot of additional buoyancy.
Okay.
So your water line will be obsolete. It'll probably be 4 inches too high, 3 to 4.
Will we want to repaint for that?
Well, what we'll do is, you always kind of guess at that, but I would drop it down to about here, the boot stripe, and down to about here. Now, when you launch a boat, it's pretty empty, and the wood's dry, so it's going to float a lot higher. By the time you start adding anchor chain and tools and food and all the gear and the dinghy and the sails, it'll start to settle in the water, but it'll still be floating high. The reason you put the boot stripe too low is because it's easy to sand the bottom paint and move it up than it is to bring this down into the bottom paint.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a guess, but it's just from experience I can say it'll probably float 3 inches higher. Just judging. Sister frame here what we did is we paired them up one side to the other.
Nice.
So there's a balance in both the appearance, which is kind of important, but also in the strength, because they all had similar issues. This one was really too far in, it was shimmed, so we corrected that, or we will, with this frame. Have another one here. Where is that thing? But anyway, we notch deep into the
Yeah, that
keel or
looks great.
deadwood. This will get fastened with a 2.5 14, like the rest of them.
So this is the way you'd like to see them all.
Yeah.
And they look on this side, they look all good.
The starboard side was weird. It was better down here than the port side, but up here it had a few more cracks and things in the frames. So we added this sister frame a month or so ago to this frame, because if you look inside here, we use a mirror to inspect all the frames. There's a scarf here that's a little short, and the frame just didn't seem right. So rather than take any chances, we went ahead and sistered that one. And up here are just a few more of the same. And again, when we get ready, before we plank, before that garbage goes on, we're going to check all the frame lower ends, make sure they're fastened to the keel. Did a little bit yesterday here, just exploring. There's another sister frame.
That's one of yours right there.
And another one here. This is notched into the keel. We had to shim this to match the shim they had, which is typical. And we got a small sister frame here because this was really bad. See,
So the natural bend of the wood is not necessarily the line that you would follow. You kind of have to match the old line.
right. The reason that's done here is it's a very sharp turn. See that? And in the steam bending process, or even the laminating process, you could crack the frame there. If not now, 5 years from now, when the boat is under some stress, it might crack. So that's really common. Same thing though, when you go to fasten a plank to this, make sure you go through the shim and into the forefoot. Because one of the things you want to think about a plank, we talked about this yesterday, is that the plank is of course, its purpose is to keep the ocean out, but it's a very important part of the structure of the boat. So when you go to fasten a plank on, you just don't say 2 screws are here are good and 2 there are good. It's where they're screwing to. For instance, right here, you want this plank to have a couple of real nice screws here, and when it comes up into the keel, start right there so that you're connecting these timbers together. The next plank that comes in, same thing. Make sure that it's helping the timbers out. I think you can see over here a little better. When you go to fasten the garboard, for instance, one of the reasons we put these screws where they are is so that they would be either in the plank line, which means we won't hit them with a future screw, or in an obvious logical place. So the garboard needs to be fastened here and on the frames back here again and so forth. And then the first broad strake, the second plank, always get at least a screw or 2 into these floor timbers.
How do you make sure that you're not going to put a screw right in the top of another screw? You mark them somehow?
Yeah.
On the back side? Chalk
Well,
or
no,
something?
I usually take a chalk, like see this bolt?
Yeah.
Bolts are the biggest offenders. You can see where somebody already hit it with a screw. So this, for instance, our new sister frame here,
Yeah.
we're going to go in with 2 bolts here, small bolts, and just 1 big screw here into the old frame.
Okay.
Because there's a bronze strap behind it. So
So you can't go all the way through and hit the bronze.
no, so a shortish screw there. And then our new frame is very strong, so we'll take advantage of that by using small bolts. A couple screws in here into this floor, and the same, repeat the process as you go. So that you use the planks as a part of the structure to help out the rest of the boat. They're not just put on just to stay on, they're put on to help the structure of the boat, to help tie the stuff together. And that's one reason we want to try to get a minimum of the first 4 planks full length. Because this plank, you can see, goes all the way back to the dead wood and the stern post. It's involved in a lot of frames and floor timbers. It goes well up into the 4-foot. So, not in theory, but in practice, it'll connect the 4-foot and everything between to the stern post.
That's very strong, obviously.
Right. Now, there's a point where it gets ridiculous. You don't want to go crazy with long planks, but you certainly want to keep them on this boat at least in the 15-foot range as a minimum, more or less. And it depends on location too, how much twist and so forth is in it. Yeah, that's about it for now. Today we're going to finish up that frame that we glued yesterday, and then we're going to start on the taking a look at the lumber, figuring out which piece can be used where.
Great. Well, June 29th, and we're 60% of the way there.
It goes up every time.
It goes up every time.
Yeah. Also, while we got it open, we'll chip out some of this bitumen. See it here?
Yeah.
That stuff there.
Yeah.
And we'll test these big keel bolts.
Oh, okay.
Just put a big wrench on them and
Let me see. I got a light here.
give them a.
Look at that. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
A light.
that's a pretty big bolt there. That's a ballast bolt.
Nice.
So while we got the opportunity, we'll go ahead and put a big wrench on them in a bar and see if they need a little bit of tightening. But they look good in the X-rays, so.
Yeah, well, let's take next on our next episode. Let's take a look at some of those X-rays.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then also we can talk about some of the other things we want to do on the boat.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Doug.
All right.
All right.
The coffee's ready.
Let's go have some coffee. Coffee break, everybody.
Yeah.
That's funny. Coffee's ready. You bond.
You never had a second cup at home, Don.
It's you bond. It's you bond.
It's you, bud.
Ever since you started using Fuller's crystals.
Cappuccino.
Who's that? Oh yeah.
You never had a second cup at home.
Because your coffee sucks.
Yeah, definitely sucks.
And I'll put 4 in. What the heck? Think about later.
You got that?
Oh, it's good. Inch and a half? Oh, no, these are
Oh, you're
just-
using these now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here's the bronze fasteners. You can see we bought a lot of bronze bolts and so forth that we're going to be using for the frames, the planking, and so forth. And bronze screws. Boxes here, more over there. I just got 2,000 2.5 14s in, and I think that'll be more than enough for what we need to do. Because a lot of the longer fasteners through the big frames will be bolts. So, and what we're doing here, we're temporarily attaching the new sister frames to the old hull planking to keep it in place. So you put beeswax on it, and we put it in the middle of the plank, this way, because we know we're not going to put a screw there. And the reason you use bronze is because if anything were to happen to the screw, like if it snapped off or something, we can leave it in the boat. You know what I mean? We don't want to use galvanized. So if it's touching the new boat, we'll call it the new boat, it's bronze. And for just a few bucks, you don't take the chance.
But now, those planks are coming out.
Oh yeah.
So this is just to hold it in place?
Right.
For now?
Uh-huh.
So that you can get it bolted to the sister frame?
Yeah. And it's just to help keep the mold, if you will, in
Yeah.
place. As we go up with the planks, the boat begins to get stiffer and stronger, and so we can start removing the old stuff as we go up like this. You don't just take all the planks off. One of the things, real quick, we like to do is below the water line, all the fasteners, bolts and screws, you want to coat them with tar.
Okay.
And the reason you do that is a bronze fastener going into fresh oak or even old oak or purple heart heats up quite a bit, and you can snap it off, especially if you're driving in with a power driver, which we do because there's not a lot of time to use the old hand brace. So what the tar does is it lubricates the screw, but also when the screw goes in and heats up, the tar thins instantly and is forced into the fibers of the wood under pressure, and this pretty much doubles the life of the screws.
Really?
Oh yeah, so you have to put something on there. We use beeswax for the temporary screws because we don't want tar getting everywhere. Above the water line, we use dolphinite because tar would tend to maybe bleed out a few years down the line on a hot sand in a day. And it'll do the same thing. Dolphinite's an oil-based compound. So you put these in with tar. As it goes in, it's well lubricated. And you also get the full benefit of you're not forcing the screw in, so the threading action, you see I'm not putting much pressure on it?
No.
That baby's in there. And these are put in, like we said, with just beeswax, which melts immediately when the screw starts going in. It's just a lubrication that will allow it to pull the screw out later without having tar everywhere. See how that bites in nicely? So these are just temporary to keep the frame in place. One more up here until we start removing planks. It helps strengthen the old part of the hull, which is acting right now as a mold. So as we go up and begin to remove the old planks, the boat will be getting stronger with new planks.
Now my question was, and I thought about this earlier, so you're going to put the bolt through the side, through the laminate right here, right? Does that not want to split that laminate as you?
No, it
doesn't have a tendency to want to push that apart, or is it once it's glued, it's essentially a solid piece of wood?
that and the bolt isn't. It goes in a hole that's kind of sloppy. It's not. You're not banging an end through the laminate.
Oh, it's not a screw either.
No, it's just a smooth shank bolt. And then on when we go to replank, because we're not real happy with the old frames here, they're pretty good, but we're going to use 2 bolts this way in the new ones, and a single bolt or screw in the old plank.
Okay.
This will help tie them all together once and for all. And should all the glue somehow evaporate, which it never will, it can't go anywhere because it's bolted together. Well, that's a good question. Yeah.
Now here I see that this, you notched out the new one, but the old one was not. It was just sitting on top of there.
Right.
And even this one here is just sitting right on top.
Right.
What's going on there? In
Well,
your opinion, was that a repair job?
Well, see, these have
That looked like it was never notched out.
No, it wasn't. I think this one was a repair only because of the way it looks, but it has a huge bolt going through it, down all the way through the keel deadwood to the bottom of the boat.
Look at that. Now if you can see the picture, look up on the back side here.
That is awesome.
Nice.
Is that ridiculous?
So it doesn't really need a notch. And these have these bronze wings, and they're bolted. In this case, this one's lagged, only because there's no reason for a bolt. Into the keel, into the deadwood, the knee, whatever you want to call this area. That's what we'll call it. So there's no real need. It would be nice if they were, but I think the thought was they're going to have those bronze wings where they're going to go. The exception to that will be these repairs we do here. We will notch these in just to help them out.
Great.
And then from there forward, they notch them all.
Those are all nicely notched in.
Much like we'll do up in the forefoot with our new frames, we'll notch those fairly deeply.
Okay, well.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll see you next week.
All right.
Because hopefully we'll start planking.
Oh yeah, pretty
Okay.
quick. We're gonna actually start today and taking a look at the lumber, see what we've got. You know. Yeah.
I wish I could stick around.
As soon as we get this frame dressed off, we'll start on that.
Wow, I'll take some pictures.